Good afternoon. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are going to be cooking Black Forest cake, a recipe which I modified at Logan. Uniquely tasty Logan. Ingredients: 200 grams of plain chocolate. Best to take 70% cocoa. Need about 3 of these. That will be 300 grams, but you can also use 200 grams. Second ingredient is butter. You can use those butter in those plastic packages which you get from the supermarket. 115 grams or half a cup. I prefer using clarified butter because I get better results in terms of taste. Need about half a cup of brown sugar. I always go for dark brown sugar as opposed to ordinary brown sugar, and I use more than that. I use 1.5 cup of soft brown sugar. I've taken about 5 eggs. This is 5 eggs which are beaten. You can also use 3 eggs if you want a lesser quantity. This is a critical ingredient for Black Forest cake. It's sherry brandy, but it's kind of hard to get from supermarkets nowadays. So instead of that, I tend to use rum. And I also make sure that some natural organic vanilla essence should also be used. We can't bake cakes without flour, so we need self-raising flour. You need about 75 grams of this. I tend to use 150 grams. And you need ground almonds. Here are some ground almonds, about 50 grams, which is about half a cup. For decorations, you'll need cherries. You can even use the dried cherries for this, not merely these type of cherries which you get in a bottle, which you can see through the glass. And also for all cakes, for the topping, I'll describe later how to make the topping for the cake. Here's some cream cheese which you'll need. It's around 250 grams. And let's get baking. The second step is to actually melt the chocolate. So here's the chocolate taken out from the package. 70%. This is a very slow fire, as you can see, very low level. It should not be boiling. And here are all the chocolate pieces which I have removed from the package into bits. About 300 grams of it goes in, and we wait for it to melt. Once it's fully melted, after that we add the clarified butter to it and we mix the two together. Here's a picture of the clarified butter being melted along with the chocolate. It continues to be melted on a slow fire, as you can see me pointing to the numbers on the heater. Until it's completely melted, it should not be boiling. Here is the completed product of the melted clarified butter and chocolate. As you can see, it's not boiling. That's exactly how it should be. It should not be allowed to boil. And now I'm going to empty it into another container which is used for the actual baking process later on. The next step is to mix all 5 together. Here is the soft brown sugar out of the packet, 1.5 cups of it. Add to this the 75 grams of the self-raising flour. I plan to add 150 grams of the self-raising flour. So this goes into this. Then add this melted chocolate butter mixture also into this. Then add the 5 eggs also into this. And then add the almond meal, about 150 grams, which I mentioned earlier. 50 grams, which is about half a cup, also into this. And once you've added it all 5 together, then you can start using a whisk to whisk them all together. Looks tasty, doesn't it? But it's not even baked. This is the appearance of all the 5 ingredients added together before the whisking process. Namely, the almonds, the flour, the brown sugar, the eggs, and the chocolate butter mixture. Once you have completely mixed all 5 together, that's when the process comes of mixing them all together. At this stage you may choose to use a little bit of cherry brandy. Alternate to cherry brandy, you may choose to use some rum, just a few drops. But because I'm taking these cakes to MAU and the wards, I don't want to use any alcohol, so I'll just use simple, ordinary vanilla essence. This is the finished product after the whisking is done. This is how it looks close up. I know your mouths are watering at this stage, but it's clearly not the finished product. It still needs to be baked. Now to bake it, it's nice because we're going to use two different layers, therefore it's nice to use two different baking trays. Now I only use this tray, which is called a bunded tray, spelled as BUNDT, just for the sake of decoration, but it's perfectly okay if you can use ordinary circular type baking trays. This is lined with baking paper, and often I like to drizzle the baking paper with some vegetable oil so that the stickiness is prevented before I add in the actual cake mixture. So now all this cake mixture goes into two baking trays. The reason for that is because after we finish baking the cake, we take out the first baked cake, then we put cream, and then we put the second one on top. So therefore you get a layer with cream in between. So now at this stage I'm going to add all this into these two, and then I'm going to put them into the oven for baking. I finished pouring the cake mixture into the two tins, the baking tins, and I placed them into the oven, and I'm going to bake them at 200 degrees centigrade for 40 minutes. There they go, they're getting baked. As you can see, I've placed the cream cheese onto the first layer of the cake. And as you can see over here, I'm actually preparing the icing. This is icing sugar with the remaining bit of the cream cheese being mixed together, which should go on top of the second layer, which has not yet been used, and soon will be taken out and placed on top of this layer. So now I'll take out that second layer and place it on top of this first layer, which has a layer of cream on it. You may ask me, what is this red stuff on it? It's actually some of the syrup from the cherries pack, just to make it taste a bit more sweeter. As you can see, I've placed the cream cheese onto the first layer of the cake. And as you can see over here, I'm actually preparing the icing. This is icing sugar with the remaining bit of the cream cheese being mixed together, which should go on top of the second layer, which has not yet been used, and soon will be taken out and placed on top of this layer. So now I'll take out that second layer and place it on top of this first layer, which has a layer of cream on it. You may ask me, what is this red stuff on it? It's actually some of the syrup from the cherries pack, just to make it taste a bit more sweeter. After baking the two cakes, we then line an ordinary plate with aluminium foil. These are the two cakes out of the oven, fully baked. This one will be the bottom layer, this will be the top layer, and you can pretty much in this picture see what I'm trying to do. Here's the cream, spreadable cream cheese, which is going to form the base between the two layers, and on top it's very simple, you just decorate it with cherries, anything else you like. Now I shall place this cake on the aluminium foil, then place the cream cheese on top of that, then place this cake on top of this at the bottom, and on top decorated with some more cream and the cherries. On the left is a mixture of icing sugar and the cream cheese. When you stir it together, you get the icing for any cake. On the right, I've placed the second cake layer on top of the first cake. As you can see, it's got a rather semi-conical shape from downwards up. And then I'm just simply going to put those cherries in between the aperture, as well as all around the cake for decoration. And then I'm also going to put the icing on top of the cake. We're coming near to the end now. As the Germans would say, fantastisch, because Black Forest cake is a German cake. And voila, here's the finished product. You can see the cherries on top, all around it. Cherries neatly decorated all along the sides. Cherries in the center to fill in the aperture. icing on top. Absolutely picture perfect. Dig in and enjoy, my friends. And thank you for watching. And you could bake this cake for anything, such as your parents' wedding anniversary, or your own wedding anniversary if you happen to be married, or any friendly occasion. The Black Forest cake is a good one. They're going to have fun in MAU tomorrow on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for your kind attention and good night.